Okay, so I think we'll get started here. Good morning. Hope everybody had a good week. Uh, and so yeah, let's get started today. So today we're going to be talking about tracking potential claims, tracking potential changes, and just being able to track these potential claims and changes within Autodesk Construction Cloud. And that kind of builds off the already existing documentation capability that we've put out guides for, and also that we've stated in one of the classes for the change orders. Um, or well, actually, most of them we've stated the documentation guidelines for some of these different issues. But in particular, today we're going to go over utilizing the issues module to most effectively uh, provide yourself as a project team um, at the field level, along with your project engineers, resident engineers, inspectors, and additionally to provide admin with the information that they're looking for in terms of being able to see what's going on across all of the projects across the state. So um, I think this is a very important training. So I know we have people who are not here that may want to see this. So uh, please feel free to, once we get this uploaded, as soon as this class is over, we're going to take the recording, put it on the wiki site, and have the recording available for everyone to see. Additionally, the stuff that I will be going over today, there is a post on the wiki site already, and I will put it in the chat here for you folks to access. Now, if you do not have access to the wiki site, still, please be sure to reach out to Econ. We're constantly uploading, updating the website, uploading best practices, uploading updated procedural things that would be useful for the field staff to use. So please be sure that you're registered for the wiki site, as we said before. If you're registered to the previous one, it totally disappeared. So your account is totally different for this new updated wiki site. So please be sure to register so that you have access to all of this different content. You have access to the content that's sent out in the newsletter and so on and so forth. But today, I'll get started with the live demonstration of what I want to go over. So in this post here that I posted in the chat, talked about entering potential claims in ACC issues. Now, this is a step-by-step process, and it's all mapped out here. But this is all about managing potential claims, and this whole change series is about managing claims, managing the documentation for it, efficiency in terms of documentation, efficiency in terms of negotiating, and just taking the potential changes in claims all the way through. Now, we still have a couple more classes to go over. Last time we talked about mitigation and acceleration. So in some of these cases, tracking the mitigation and acceleration, where acceleration may turn into a claim, right? So that would essentially be a potential claim. So we want to be tracking. So we're building off the last class, and we want to be tracking all of that in ACC. I know some of you may have your separate trackers that you've been tracking some of this information with. But today we're going to be giving you an e-construction solution to track these potential claims and potential changes in Autodesk Construction Cloud. So with that, the first step is to verify your project settings. Now, what I mean by that is I initially discussed about all of this information will be populated in a dashboard that we'll look at when it comes to COCOA reviews, and administration will have access to this dashboard. So it is of the utmost importance that we're tracking all of this information in Autodesk Construction Cloud, or else the administrators looking at it will not be able to see and access this information. And also, it simply just provides better and more efficient project management utilizing this tool, keeping everything in one tool and referenced in one place. So with that, I'm going to go over how to essentially make sure that the setup is according to what we're looking for. So the first thing is going to navigating to, you can get to this page by any of the docs, build, or if you're a project administrator, right, go to the project administrative tab. But right now I'm in Autodesk Build. And if you go from build to settings, then you'll be able to see your project settings. And now we want to make sure that we have all of this information entered. This is a test project, so right now it doesn't have a project number, but we want to be sure that we have the project number here available to see something like this. And so if your project number is not entered into this project number section, please be sure that you do so. Secondly, there's information in the address that we need to be able to properly track and display information on some of these dashboards. So the second is this address bar. And want to make sure that on address line 2, we have the district office that you are out of. So Oahu, Maui, Hawaii, and Kauai, right? So make sure that the district office is in address line 2. And then secondly, in the zip code, make sure that this is where you have the district. So in most cases, Honolulu, obviously in other parts, Eva, all of the districts that your project, and you can find this information on your sheets or in your contract, right? So make sure that this information aligns with the information that you have in your contract. This is how it's going to be displayed on the dashboards, and also it'll be displayed on our account admin, so we can make sure that in any future updates and any future changes to some of these libraries, that we're accounting for your project properly, and that we can designate it in its correct area. So want to be sure that we're tracking this information correctly. So we ask that when you're setting up your projects, and also if you have an existing project, we want to make sure that this information is correct and up to date. And then obviously make sure you have your full project name here, project number, and then 2 things that I said before. All of this other information is optional, right? You are able to input this information, but that is optional. Okay, so one more step before we get into creating the issues, and that step is going to members. So again, you can access members from either Docs, Build, or Project Administrator. But the thing is, we want to be sure that we really hone in on the roles and access levels for everybody on our project. The reason is because as we're moving towards updating forms, updating some of the workflows within ACC, a lot of these are going to be set based off of roles. So especially the most important distinction in your role is a contractor versus an internal role. So anything that does not have contractor on it is an internal role. Sometimes on a project you have, there have been a few requests to add subcontractors. So want to make sure that we add the subcontractor as a contractor role and add all the contractors as a contractor engineer, contractor, there's 3 options: contractor engineer, contractor admin, contractor PM. Now, between these 3 roles, there's not really any huge distinction between the access level between these 3 roles, but we just need to make sure that if there are a contractor account on our HDOT projects, that they have this contractor distinction. And it is even more important with entering in potential claims here in ACC, because if they do not have this, if they have an internal role, perhaps with by mistake an administrative role or a PM role on a project where they'll be able to see some of the issues, then they would potentially be able to see some of the issues. So we just need to make sure that the contractors on your account have access as a contractor role, and then they will not be able to see any of the issues that you create unless you assign it to them. But by default, they will not be able to see any issues. So just wanted to make sure that we set the contractor account. So just double check, go through your project, make sure that any of the contractor accounts have the contractor role. I've seen on some projects where it is not like that, and then they'll have extra access to some things that they shouldn't have access to, like for example, the files, potentially some issues, potentially some open RFIs and submittals that they're not associated with, some meeting minutes. So obviously just want to make sure that the contractor has the proper role within ACC. And then additionally, this is a more obvious one, but I want to make sure that they have project member access level. And obviously be careful as to who you give project administrative access to. You obviously don't want to give project administrative access to contractors, but even with your team, if they have project administrative access level, then they'll be able to access the entire project, change anything in the project. So we want to be sure that you only give project administrative rights to people who should be able to change and access the entire project and should be able to see the project as a whole and make changes. So that's it with member setup. Are there any questions of what I went over so far about members or settings thus far? Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to pull this screen back up again. And now we're going to go over. So the first step was verifying project settings. It outlines where you're supposed to enter in all the information, making sure that the information here for district office, project number is all entered correctly at the project settings level. Then we went over confirming contractor access and roles so that they have the proper access to not view things that they shouldn't be viewing, especially when we're going to be creating these potential claim issues and in autonomous construction file issues, right? So please be sure that you do these first two steps before you start entering this information. And I'll talk about if you already have potential claims within ACC, how to deal with that. That's at the very end. So I'll talk about how you can transfer the type into the auditable and the type that the best practice that we're going to be going through today. All right, so now I just want to, as we're going through this today, I wanted to give just a brief example, and we used this this example on one of the previous trainings, but just want you to keep this background example in your mind today as we go through this example and live demonstration that I'm going to go through this morning. So it's a differing site condition, unsuitable subgrade material. Contractor plans and geotechnical report indicate the existing subgrade consists of compacted granular material suitable for paving after minor grading. So during excavation, the contractor discovered large areas of saturated clay or organic soil that fail under load and must be undercut, replaced with imported ag base. So obviously, I'm not going to read the rest of this, but just want you to paint a picture of the scenario as we're going through ACC today, just to provide a somewhat hypothetical, somewhat real example. And as we said before, the last two trainings that we're going to go over in this series will be real examples of claims that have gone on projects and how we would how it was handled, how we would handle it, and some of the best practices and documentation practices for ACC. But for today, for the purpose of providing an example of inputting a potential claim in ACC the proper way, and the way we've configured it, we're going to use this example. So just keep this in the back of your mind as we're going through this. So If you navigate to build and you go to the issues module, you'll be able to see the issue log at the project level. Now, this is different than an account level page, but this is the page that you'll be able to see. If you go all the way to the right, you'll be able to see this gear, and it'll have all of the fields that you're able to. So you can customize your view on your different projects. So you can customize what you want to see. If you want to see some of the custom fields that we've entered for let's say BMPs, because that's already been on your project for the last 2 years in terms of issues. So if you want to see some of the BMP custom fields, if a lot of your projects are dealing with the issues in BMPs and coordinating with the contractors that way, so you're able to see that here. You can change your view for the log. And now we get into some of the issue fields that we need to be entered. So if you want to see that from this page, then you can just toggle it on or off. If you don't want to see some of this other fields, then you're able to do so as well. But for now, we'll get into what an issue looks like, how to create it. There's 2 ways to create an issue. First is to click this button here and create it directly from the issues module. The second is from Sheets. So if we go into Sheets, and let's say that we're on the particular sheet that we've noticed an issue for. So let's say that there's an issue here and we want to mark based off of the example that we had. I'm going to click on this little checkbox with a circle around it. And this is where you can access the issues pull down. Now there's various different types of issues, and a lot of these are default from ACC, but some of these are custom and are set. But in particular today, the one that we're concerned with is potential claim. So you see this one that says PC here. So you go to that scenario, you discover the large area of saturated clay and organic soil that may have potential for potential change or claim. So what you'll do is you'll go in and you can mark it in a certain area of the plan sheet, and it'll automatically prompt you to create an issue. Now, right now, the status is in draft. And if I title it a certain claim, so I'm just going to say, bear with me as it's taking some time to load, unsuitable subgrade material. So I'm titling it here. And now it's created an issue that is marked where on the sheet that it pertains to. Now, if I exit out of this and if I refresh my screen, what's going to happen is it's going to show in the issue log. So it's already started here, but it's a draft. So I took it from the sheet, and what it'll do automatically is it will automatically reference the sheet that it came from. You see it says placement and it says cover sheet, because this is where we placed the issue initially. Okay, so now this is a draft. So this is, as I'm going through the process guide, there is various different statuses of a potential claim entry that you have in issues, and I'll go over that in a bit. But just to provide some reference, there are various aspects of this potential claim. So in this background, differing site condition. So as we discussed before, we have resources for that. And after you create this potential claim, I mean, the whole point of creating the issues within Autodesk Construction Cloud, not the whole point, but one of the main benefits of this is you're able to reference the already existing context and resources that you have on this issue directly to this issue. You're able to tie it all together. And one of the biggest challenges when you're writing a change, or you're taking a look back at all the resources, is they're all over the place. You have resources on your desktop, you have resources in ACC, you have resources in Headlight, you have resources in an Excel sheet. But if you're able to reference them all here, and this is why this reference tab is one of the one of the biggest features that you're able to use. So let's say that this differing site condition, we've already have an established RFI for it. So if there's an RFI for it, I'm going to essentially just click here, and then I'm able to tie the RFI to the existing issue. Now, if I go to RFIs, it's going to automatically tie the data together. If I go to RFIs, I go to this RFI, show the status that's in it, but then it's also referenced to this issue here. Now, question, so if the contractor has access to this RFI, but does not have access to this issue, will they be able to see it? So there's no. So, and this is one of the cool things about references. So you're only able to see the reference if you have access to that reference. So in particular, what it's been particularly useful for is uploading files. So sometimes the designer has comments and internal back and forth on what discussions on the RFI, and they don't want the contractor to see it. They want to keep it internal, right? So what they'll do is, they'll add it as a reference in the CM folder where the contractor does not have access to. And that was one of the initial problems with RFIs, is the contractor would have access to the back and forth and activity log and general information, but the solution for that was to upload any internal references within the references tab as a document. But anyway, that's besides the point. Going back to issues, we're referencing all of the supporting documentation that can come of this potential claim. And this is obviously the first step. So what else can we reference? We have various, if we can reference it to another issue, we can reference it to a photo that we've taken in ACC, we can reference it to a file. Obviously a sheet, we've already placed it on a particular sheet, so it's already connected in that way. Schedule activity. So we should all be having our schedules uploaded to Autodesk Construction Cloud. We should be uploading our baseline. We should be uploading our progress schedules and tracking that within ACC. So in most cases, some of these potential claims are tied to a schedule activity or tied to the schedule, right? Especially if it has to do with if the contractor is requesting for time, right? Or if there is justified time extension. So want to be sure that we're tying it to the schedule activities that are applicable. So as obviously all of these references are as applicable. Sometimes for a potential claim, it may just be bare bones and not have any of these references at the start. But then as you start to gather this information, we want to make sure that we're adding it to this one place so that we can have it all in one place. And I'll show you at the very end of when we're completed with this potential claim issue, but you're able to go in and export it. And that becomes useful is if it turns into a change, and then if when you go to the headlight step of creating a headlight and then uploading your internal documentation, justification, and all of that. So that will be useful a bit later on. So we uploaded schedule activity that has to do with this potential claim. We uploaded an RFI. There's also correspondence. This is also very important, right? Because if it's a potential claim and then the contractor gives a notice, right? So we want to make sure that we're attaching this notice so that we can provide all the information. So right here, as you can see in correspondence, I've already created a notice of potential claim from the contractor. I've created the response from the contract or response from HDOT. And then I've also created the actual claim submission from the contractor here. And we should be tracking that in correspondence. So now we're easily able to go from this potential claim and attach all of these three correspondence so that if I have a question of, hey, what, I'm looking back at it. Oh, here's when the correspondence was, here's the actual notice, here's the response to the notice, and here is the actual claim submission. And that is all tracking correspondence. I'm able to just come in here, click on it, and then I'll be able to see the official correspondence that's tied within ACC. If I click on it, I can get taken directly to the correspondence. Okay. Moving forward, do we have anything else? So submittals, obviously submittals are the same. So if we want to attach a submittal, then if the submittal has to do with this potential claim and it affects submittal, which affects the schedule, want to make sure that we're tying all of these references together. Okay. So that is just the referencing aspect of it. And obviously, as things fold through this potential claim, and as you're gathering documentation, we want to make sure that we're adding these references. Okay. But there is information here that we'll need to enter specifically when we choose potential claim type. There is information here that administration and also, your higher field staff are interested in seeing. So this is where you'll be able to enter in the information. Now, you're able to add references, and this is if it's already within the project, right? If you want to tie documentation that's already within the project. But if you want to add a separate attachment that is not already in the project, you're able to do so. So you're able to go in, you can add attachments from your desktop, so you can tie it to, your issues here. Now, the next fields are what is important. So now, here we have all of the various different fields, and this is the fields that are important. I really hope you can see this, but if you can't, then they are outlined here in the best practice guide that we have here on the wiki site. But these fields are so let's say that we have a description of the potential claim. So we want to be sure that we're entering it in here. So I'm going to copy it from here and enter it in here. Now, the moment that you enter in all of the required information, you're going to set to open. Okay. Now, I'm going to pull up my guide. So there's various different statuses on this issue. Now, the way we've set it up is that open is the initial entry, right? And then in review, so open is initial entry, you're still adding some of the documents. Pending, okay, this blue one, is you're awaiting additional information from the contractor, or, you're still adding documentation to it. Now, when it's in review, this is when your claim is currently, claim or potential change is under review by HDOT. So whenever it's in review, we want to make sure that we're setting it to in review status. And then closed is if the claim has been resolved and settled and it's closed, or the potential claim, turned out not to be a change and not to be a claim. You can close it, but we just want to make sure that we're tracking all of that different documentation and we have the different statuses for what it will look like. Now, if it's just in draft, you're the only person who's going to be able to see it. So in order to make it visible to the rest of your project team who has access, be sure to change it to open. And that is when you initially create it. So now I'm going to enter in some of the information just as an example, right? We're keeping in mind the example that we have. So the claim number, so as I reference here, the claim number that the contractor submitted is number 2. So I enter that in here. And as I said before, initially when you enter in this potential claim, you may not have all this information. So we're entering this information in as applicable and as the project goes on. So some of this information, like CCO number, you may not have yet. It may just be a potential claim, and you may not have that CCO number yet. So we want to make sure that as we are, this potential claim actually turns into a change. So if that happens, then want to be sure that we're updating that here. So I'm going to put number 2, let's just say. So then when the contractor submits his cost proposal, as they did the notice of potential claim, submitting the cost proposal, referencing it here, they submit their requested compensation, let's just say 108,000. And then requested time, they're going to say that this will take an extra 5 days. And per your contract, we put working days or calendar days, and that obviously is specified in your contract. So depending on your contract, you'll be able to see what it is, working days or calendar days. And then here is HDOT calculated compensation. So your ICE, your cost justification, is all stuff we've talked about before. Let's say R1 is 50,000. 1, 2, 3. 50,000 and our calculated time is only 2 days. So we're gonna enter that information here. Settlement compensation. So what was settled? We obviously have 2 different points of view. We have the contractor submitting their cost proposal worth $100,000 and 5 extra working days of work. But then we did our independent cost estimate, and we estimate TIA, and we only estimated 50,000 in 2 days. Let's say for the sake of the argument, we came back and we settled on 70,000, please, and we settled on 3 days. So we'll enter that information here. And like I said before, it's important to note that we do not want to enter in this information after everything has been completed necessarily. Utilizing these tools, we want to enter in this information as it's happening so that we can keep track, keep all the necessary references here, and update administration, update your resident, update your construction engineer, district engineer. We want to update them as real time as possible, right? So we want to make sure that as applicable, we're entering in this information when it happens. So has HDOT senior leadership been consulted? Let's just say yes. So they are aware of this issue. They're aware on 10/1/2025. So CCO supporting documentation. Okay, well, we have all this information already. We've settled on a number, but now, how much of the CCO and supporting documentation have we completed? I'm just going to say 75%. Has it been approved? Not yet, because we're still working on the CCO documentation approval date. Keep this blank, as we haven't had the approval yet. Approved by, keep this blank, because we haven't got it approved yet. But then this year, advanced approval. So has this already been advanced, or has it already been advanced approved? So potentially it has. So you want to make sure that we're entering in the information here as applicable. So these are all of the fields that you should be entering in as applicable for your potential claim, and doing it all within this issue entry here. Additionally, throughout the issue, if you toggle over to the side, if you go over to the activity log, you're able to see any change made to this issue and by whom. So you're able to see what was added. It's similar to the submittal and RFIs, right? You're able to see any of the changes here. I'm going to pull back up my guide so we can make sure that we're still on track. Okay. And as we're updating the information, make sure that per the status changes, that we are updating where this potential claim is at. Okay. So adding supporting references, we talked about that already, making sure that adding all of the context of this potential claim within here. Okay, now let's say that you're on a project and you're already entering in this potential claim information, and it may not be as the recently configured changes in claim potential claims type. So sometimes on your project, it may be one of these other types, and you've already been tracking changes. What you want to do is you just want to change that type over to this potential claim, and the default information. Now, if you have custom fields that you created on your project for these potential claims that you've done before this was configured, then reach out to Econ, because we'll need to discuss how we're going to transfer that information. But in most cases, the customized fields are not created, and you're only entering in the default information like references, attachments, comments, details, title, status, all of that. That is default issue information. And if you change from one type to another, that information will carry over. So you will not lose the context of your information if you've already been inputting this information in issues. The only thing that will happen is it'll change the type, and then it will prompt you to enter in this all of these fields based off of the issue or the issue type that you change into. And that's the information that we need in terms of the potential claims. And this is all of the information entered as applicable that we need. Now, what's going to happen with this information? As I said before, this information will be taken, populated in a dashboard across all accounts, and HDOT administration will be able to see. So they'll be able to update, real time of all of the information that you update here. So it is of the utmost importance that we're keeping track of these potential claims with this potential claim type, and also making sure that we're entering in the information here. Now, going back to references and tying it together, why is this useful? So as I said before, you can easily tie it to the rest of the data within ACC. Initiative moving forward, and that is talked about across various different areas and across, software is connected data, right? So having connected data all in one place. Now, we all know how long it takes to make a justification for change. And if we had easier ways to connect data and have it in one place, it would make, everybody's life easier. It'd be easier to view, it'd be easier to compile the documentation, and, we have the change order solution when it comes to, printing that document, sending for signature, getting, having that signature workflow and getting those things approved. If we're able to come in here, have all the information, have all this information about requested compensation from the contractor, see the negotiations back and forth, see all of the numbers, see when it was approved, by whom, all of this information we're able to have in one place. And with all the references, with how it started as an RFI, with how it affects the schedule, and how, and all of the notice of potential claim, things that you would add, typically as an attachment, you'd have them all separately, you combine them together. You're able to just click this button here. I can export as a PDF. And then what's going to happen is it's going to send me an email that I'm going to be able to press download. So bear with me as I'm waiting for the email to load. And then I'm able to download it. And what will happen is it'll compile all of this information here with links to these particular items in Autodesk Construction Cloud. And you're able to see what was sent. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take it and I'm going to show you what it looks like. I'll give my email 1 second to refresh. But you have all that information within a PDF that you can then take to Headlight, upload, and provide, all of the information compiled with all of the context of this potential claim. Okay, here it is. I'm going to download the report. And here's what it'll look like. It'll have the placement of where it is on the sheet, and it'll compile it all for you. If I click on this, it'll automatically take me to the issue in ACC. It'll have a description. It'll have all of the fields that we have here: claim, CCO number, date of contract notification, all of the fields that we're interested in, that admin is interested in seeing. We have that here already compiled, and then all of the references that we've mentioned and that we've connected to this one issue, it'll all be in one place, and they're able to click, have links, taking directly to those links. We don't have to spend time compiling a bunch of different things. So this is an option, or this is an ability that we have in ACC that is available on all of your projects right now. Now, if you do not see this issue type on your project, reach out to Econ, because then we'll be able to quickly turn it on, configure it on your project. But we did a sift of the projects and all the active projects from 2024 on. We've activated and configured these customized fields already and customized issue type on your project. So you should be able to see this issue type on your project. You have the ability to do this already on all of your projects within ACC. But if you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Econ. Let's see. I think that is it. But now we'll get into any questions that someone potentially would have.
Hey, Cord.
Yes.
Question for you, and
Mhm.
apologies if you mentioned something of the sort, but I know it's helpful for project management to have some idea on outstanding cost obligations. Um, is there a way that this exports to a report that compiles the cost estimates, um, so you can have an idea on the amount of costs that you've theoretically directed the contractor to solve or are tracking?
That's a neat question, and there actually is a way to configure that within cost management, but we haven't yet explored that um, within ACC. A lot of the payment information and it lives within Headlight, right? Um, so with some of that cost obligation information, we not in ACC, we would not be able to export it from ACC and have it automatically calculate, unfortunately, at the
Well,
moment.
what if like within each issue, I think I saw it on the right side.
Oh,
There's an
okay.
estimate here, right? Yeah, or contractor requested this. So maybe it was something where like could it export the H dot calc compensation field for each issue?
Mm, mm. That's a good. Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Let me take a look into that. I think that's certainly possible. You know, if we have all of the information inputted on and you're talking about at a project level, Marshall, or like at, you know, let's say you have 10 projects and you want information from all of those 10 projects. Would you want to see it on that one screen
On a
or a
per
dashboard
project on a per project basis.
per
So like
project?
I have for Farrington, we have a spreadsheet that basically is um, performing what you're showing here. And the main goal of that is to kind of have an idea on, um, how we're doing on maybe needing additional funds. If there's a lot of RFIs that have already directed the contractor to incorporate additional costs. So we've estimated those costs with each issue, but we haven't resolved the change order. As those accrue and compile, we can kind of have a feel for how much additional funds we've already um,
That's a great,
directed of sorts,
yeah,
and whether we need to discuss additional funds, or it gives us some sort of cost implications for all these issues.
that's a great question. No, that's a great point. And that just puts like light bulbs in my head about how we're able to take this information, potentially put it to home. So one of the things that is exciting about ACC right now that's in development is that they're soon going to be able to have dashboards come up on your screen um, about all of these different modules, and you're able to see information at a project level here, and you'll be able to see some of the important and pertinent information that you'd want to see. I think that data point, Marshall, of having these customized fields be able to aggregate and being able to present it on the home dashboard, that would be extremely helpful. We don't have that capability right now. And um, I know, like I said before, through cost management, there is that capability, but we have yet to explore that in terms of, tracking the obligated costs within ACC and be able to track that and total it. So no, I appreciate the question because it spurs ideas that I have. But in terms of issues right now and the customized field, there is not a way to aggregate and export those customized fields just yet. But I'm hoping that in some of the next updates with ACC that we're able to aggregate this within Insight Builder, and then Insight Builder, we'll be able to have a dashboard or have it, um, something that looks like a spreadsheet or dashboard, and we'll be able to aggregate that information for you for it to be useful for the project team to see that type of information.
Right on. Thank you.
Thanks, Marshall. It's a great question. Is there any other questions on the process on how to do it. Now, I know probably questions will come up as you start to input this information. So as always, the econ email is where we want to be asking these questions, and we're sure to help you. Okay, I'm sorry, Marvin, I did not see your question until now. Contractor has access to references and can upload their transmittal sheets in the RFI module. So is it accessible to all members? I'm not sure if I answered that as I talked through it. Contractor has access to the references, Marvin, but they are not able to have access to the references that they are not able to inherently see with their permission level and access level. So as I said before, I walked through the RFI example of if your file is uploaded to construction management folder, in which the contractor role in Autodesk Construction Cloud does not have access to, then when they go to that RFI, they will not be able to see that reference. It's going to be locked out and blocked. So they will not be able to see that reference. Now, if you upload that file to the general folder where they do have access to, and then upload it to the reference, and they're going to be able to see that reference. So we just want to make sure that we understand. And that's why I started off this guide and this live demo with, let's understand our project settings, make sure that that's configured correctly, and then let's understand our project members and project access level so that we can configure it correctly and make sure that every member on this project has correct access to what they should be seeing. Just want to reiterate, this is recorded and will be uploaded to the wiki site and YouTube page after this training. So, resident engineers, construction engineers, if you have folks that need to see this, then please forward that. This is an important training that should be forwarded to everybody. And this guide that I've been talking about is already on the wiki site and is available for you folks to see. I entered it in the chat just at the beginning of this training. So this is a step-by-step guide. Please reference this post. But if you have any further questions after you read and go through this post, then obviously feel free to reach out. Is there any other questions?
Hey, Cord, this is Kaha'a.
Yes.
This is not so much a question, but a big mahalo for automating this whole thing. Thanks to the guys who already passed information along through Darrow and Brent and Clifford and soon Ty. I got the spreadsheets yesterday, and it has all this information you shared, but I think it'll even be better for all of us once this information is in ACC for all the reasons you shared during your presentation, right? So I really think this is a great tool. I appreciate you guys, the fellows that put the information together and transferred it to me yesterday. I think that was a great start. From what I saw from you, Cord, that spreadsheet, your issues and what you shared will be able to house all the information in the spreadsheet and then some. And I really do think that the live aspect, right, how you talked about when things are happening, that's when we upload it. When as claims move along, we go back to it, we keep it uploaded. I think that whole process there will yield some really good results in terms of everybody working together as a team, garnering support from leadership, whether it be in your office or even at the top. So really good stuff. I appreciate it. Looking forward to all of us getting organized and, taking care of some of these contractor issues that I recently learned about. So thanks again. Thanks to you and the team.
Thank you.
To you as well.
Alrighty, so is there last chance for questions before I call this training? All right, with that, thank you everybody for attending today. Again, this will be uploaded to the wiki site, so if you need to forward this over to whomever, please do so. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Kaha, if you could stay on for 1 minute after, I'd like to show you something.
Sure.